For July 22nd, 2024. Our first order of business is approval of the agenda. If there are no changes or additions, we can proceed. Seeing none, we can move on to the approval of the June 24th, 2024 committee meeting minutes. If there are no changes or additions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
A motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss, second by Councilmember Morales. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. And now we're on to employee recognition. I'm going to turn it over to Metro Transit General Manager Candaris.
Right. Thank you, Chair Barber, council members. Today we're recognizing a senior supervisor in our Rail Control Center, Andrew Watterson. Our Rail Control Center is really the hub of operations and communications with our light rail vehicles and operators when they're out on the line. And much of that work is heavily reliant on a system we call SCADA. Earlier this year, that SCADA system froze while Andrew was on duty, and today he is being recognized not only for his efforts to mitigate potential problems from that system freeze, but also for his high performance during a weather event that occurred that same weekend as well. To further introduce Andrew and highlight his effort, with the chair's permission, I'd like to turn it over to Jake Rooney, our manager of rail operations.
Hey, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Transportation Committee. Senior supervisors are the first level of management within Metro Transit light rail operations. They staff the Rail Control Center 24/7 and are tasked with command and oversight of the entire light rail system at a given moment. On the weekend of March 22nd through 24th, Mr. Watterson led rail operations through a series of events, including widespread delays and open work associated with the most impactful winter weather weekend we experienced this year. I know we didn't have many, but we had a good one. Multiple minor interruptions and one 45-minute full SCADA outage, leaving the control center unable to see or control train movements on the system. 2 train versus auto collisions, roughly 30 minutes apart, with widespread delays associated with those, and an unplanned colleague absence to which he volunteered last minute to adjust his schedule and extend himself to 15 hours to ensure coverage. Mr. Watterson's decision-making and communication were critical in resolving the operational issues efficiently and keeping leadership informed. In closing, the weekend of March 22nd through 24th was an especially challenging weekend for rail operations, but the leadership, poise, and flexibility shown by Mr. Watterson made Monday morning discussions surrounding weekend events easy to navigate. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
for what
thank
do.
you.
We really appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
And for stepping up. Yeah.
Andrew's family's here also. I'd like to introduce them.
Thank you
okay.
for coming.
Yep. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. You're amazing.
Congratulations again, and thank you so much for all you do to help keep things up and running. We really rely on people like you all the time. And next, I will turn it back over now to MTS Services Executive Director Carlson for a report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, council members. A number of agenda items tonight relate to our work, so I'll keep my remarks to a minimum and also defer to Mr. DeGan for a report from the TAB, which is the other notable thing going on in terms of our regional solicitation selection. But do want to just provide you a quick update on the motor vehicle sales tax, and periodically we'll provide these updates. I'll begin tonight by saying 1 month does not make a trend, but we saw some pretty surprising results in June, and in a lower direction. However, we're doing pretty well relative to forecast for the year. So in June, the state collected about $87 million of motor vehicle sales tax compared to $116 million projected. So that's 75% of their estimate. We've done pretty well for a lot of this year, many months, including 110, 111% of forecast. And then that made June a surprising result. The good news is we're at, for the year to date, 95% of the February forecast and actually 100% of last November's forecast. The forecast was bumped up in February. So we're sitting fine overall. I'd observe we had the 4th wettest June on record and the 5th wettest month of any year and any month in June of 2024. The Twin Cities received over 7 inches of rain. I don't know about you, but unless I have to, I'm not going to go shopping for cars in the rain. So we'll see what July brings. We'll see what comes from here. But broader auto sales trends we have available through May, not through June, but year-over-year growth continues nationwide. So not something I'm concerned about yet, but if you come in 25% below your forecast, it's notable, and wanted to observe that for you. Something we'll continue to watch closely and report on because Invest is such an important source for us. Also, it's a volatile source, so that as you know, we budget less than 100% of Invest purely to account for unusual discrepancies like this, because you never know when you're going to get 7 inches of rain. With that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions, MTS or meteorological, as the situation may dictate.
Thank you. Director Carlson, any questions or comments, or looking for a weather report? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we are on to Metro Transit General Manager Kinderis.
Chair Barber, council members, a couple updates for tonight. First, a reminder that we're organizing some tours of our transit system. The first tour is going to be this Thursday, July 25th, meeting here around 3:30. And we'll take you on some different bus routes to give you a sense of our system. There's another tour scheduled for the 29th, though I understand that one is full. Certainly, if you're interested in the dates we haven't provided thus far don't work for you, don't hesitate to let your community relations specialist, Sophia Guinness, or I know, and we'll make sure to arrange something that does better fit in your schedule. But we're looking forward to hosting you all on that. So thanks for those of you who have confirmed. And then my other update actually comes with handouts. I wanted to provide a brief update on a project we kicked off internally last year called Metro Transit Forward. Metro Transit has long had a tradition of creating operational strategic plans to guide our work internally in alignment with the policy that you all set. And so our latest iteration of this is called Metro Transit Forward. Rather than creating a lengthy strategic plan document, this time we created a framework that fits on one sheet of paper, and I'll hand these out in a moment, and there's some copies out on the table for members of the public as well. But it's really our opportunity to state our vision, mission, and our strategic priorities. And the reason I wanted to bring it tonight is we are going to start incorporating this language as we organize our budget presentations for 2050 and through a lot of the other work that will come in front of this committee. So I just wanted to start building some familiarity with the document that we're using internally to guide our work. So it looks like there's actually a couple of copies on here already. I'll hand a couple more out, but I'd be happy to take questions on that or any other topic.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments?
Thank you. This is very convenient, and it's really easy to access again, and I'm glad to see the 3 categories for improving employee experience, as well as service, and increasing the number of employees that we have.
Any additional questions or comments? I'll just say I think this is great, and so it's really nice to see, and I do like the simple kind of snapshot. It will actually, be a good tool for us as we're going through budgeting. Also, again, encourage anyone to hop on one of the transit tours if possible, and thank you to your team for organizing them. I appreciate it very much. All right, anything else? All right, now our next thing is we're going to turn it to our tab liaison, Peter DeGan.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Becky. Madam General Manager, Madam Vice Chair, honorable council members, Mr. Director Carlson, I'm sorry. I apologize for being late, but, well, my fault. Anyway, per the request of Dr. Carter at the last meeting, we went through, he asked a very excellent question about the makeup of the tab, and so I thought I'd just bring it up briefly. The tab is made up of 34 individuals, one from each of the major agencies such as MnDOT, PCA, MAC, and then a non-motorized representative, also known as Bike Ped. Then there's 2 transit representatives, and then 10 elected officials, 1 each from the major cities, that'd be St. Paul and Minneapolis. The remaining 8 are appointed by metro cities. Then 1 county commissioner from each county, represented, that'd be 7, and then 8 citizens, of which I am 1, and then 1 for the Suburban Transit Association. And then from there, it divides down into TAC, which is a Technical Advisory Committee. And their job is, their main purpose is to give technical advice to the TAB. And that is composed of 29 very smart people from the cities and counties. I'm glad they're doing it, not me, excuse me, yes. And then under them is Funding and Programming Subcommittee, which manages federal transportation funds. And then additionally, the Planning Committee, which oversees, about everything that the TAB does, but particularly in making sure that it complies with federal law and guidance. And it does help with the regional solicitation, as does funding and programming. And in addition, the Planning Committee, works on the airport comprehensive plans. Tonight, well, let me step back. The regional solicitation was the main topic at the TAB last week. It went very smoothly, unanimous decision. Many projects were funded, particularly with the use of active transportation funds, which is an additional source of revenue. Steve Peterson will be presenting the full report next meeting, so I will defer to him. But in your TAB summary report, the last couple of pages are the projects that were approved. A little, not cheat sheet, but they're in the back, okay, if you like. And then you have 2 items before you tonight, which I'd like to comment on. One is the redo of Minnesota 121 and Kenosha County State 8 Highway 22, basically Lindale Avenue north of 62. And that district, the project is divided between Councilmember Pacheco's district and Councilmember Littlegren's district. And in it refers to a pork chop. And we thank Mr. Carlson for explaining what a pork chop was. But suffice to say, a pork chop is a traffic control island, that splits the traffic into a slip lane, which you just follow the road, and also for crossing. It's kind of like a pork chop shaped roundabout. And it also has a very safe place for pedestrians to wait. So that is in one of the other items. And then another item that you'll be having is the I-94 bridge over County Road 19 in Wright County. And as far as I can tell, there is no Metropolitan Council district for that. That is outside the 7-county area. And I believe that's determined by the census. And I don't have all the explanations, but I will return next month with an explanation of how we get outside the 7 counties. Unless Mr. Carlson wants to, or Madam Chair, you want to, okay. And so that, and then the last, and in the summary report, a couple of things from MAC. I'm sure you may have read it, but 105% of 2019 levels for domestic, 101% for international. Excuse me. And then, which really not quite remarkable, quite innovative, they installed a water the things you fill up your water bottles with. They've saved 100,000 plastic bottles. That's pretty amazing. And I think it's in a month and a half. And then, of course, Travel and Leisure magazine, which is the top of the leisure market, said MSP is a top North American airport. So that's pretty darn good. And then I want to share with General Manager Canderas my own experience with Metro Transit. This is, wow, was I a dummy? Okay, first things first, on the way to the Pride Festival, Blue Line. Guess who dropped their wallet? Okay, I figured, okay. So I filled out the form, you know, if there's a form, if you lose anything, it's quite good. I'm sorry, my back is to you, excuse me, sorry. So I filed the report. But what I don't do is look when the appointments are, because there's a section, you just can't show up. Guess who shows up? Oh, no, actually, I get a call from someone who would not give me their name because they said, I'm a manager, I'm not supposed to be calling you because, you know, that's not my job, but at 8 o'clock in the morning, I get a very nice call, we found your wallet. I will get it down to lost and found today. Okay, so I didn't know the process. I go down to lost and found, I'm on there on the wrong day. Okay, so I pick up the phone, a very nice person, lovely lady, helps me, say, let me see what we can do. I go, oh, okay. And she comes back on the phone about really 10 minutes later and said, we don't have it. Oh, okay. A half hour later, her supervisor calls and says, we have it. And I said, oh, when can I come down? And he said, don't worry about it. We'll express mail it to you. So for a while, it's probably worth $1.29. No, I mean, can't believe it. I mean, just, wow. Now, that was amazing, you know, to get to me the next day, and that was really impressive. Thank you, General Manager. Sorry again, I have my back to you. There's the envelope.
Well, we're very glad you had a good customer experience.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
Yes, I just hope the person that took some things out of it paid for groceries. No. Well, it's my fault.
Any questions or comments
Oh,
on the town report?
Yeah.
I just want
Councilmember
to
Carter.
thank Peter.
Oh, you're welcome, sir.
Feedback.
Of course, Dr. Carter.
Yep.
Madam Chair, I'll just note that last September, following recommendation by this group, the council adopted the urbanized area boundary for the Twin
Right.
Cities region, and it includes parts of Wright and Sherburne County that fall within the census-defined urbanized area, which is why there's a, next on your agenda, a TIP amendment related to a bridge in, that's not in the seven-county area.
And the acronym for that is, what's that?
The UZA.
UZA? So it's not in the metro, but it is in the metro. But I will try to find out how the census tracks, which you have to have an MPO for it, don't align with the MPO. Anyway, but smarter people than me do that. Anyways, thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Carlson?
Any additional questions or comments? All right, thanks, Peter.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now we are on to consent business. There's 2 items on consent. I'd entertain a motion to approve the items on consent.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Morales, second by Councilmember Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the items on consent are adopted. Now we're on to our business for the evening, and our first item is business item 2024-122, same week, which is the Metro Blue Line Extension, authorization of municipal consent joint public hearing. We have Nick Thompson here.
Madam Chair, committee members, here to talk about business item 2024-122, same week. Blue Line Extension, we've been talking a lot about this project lately, so we're at the point where we're going to seek authorization to start the municipal consent process. A little more on the background of the project. The proposed Blue Line Light Rail project will extend existing Blue Line from Target Field Station and connect the communities of Minneapolis, Robbinsdale, Crystal, and Brooklyn Park. Project has been in the preliminary engineering phase for quite a while now. We are on a new alignment that was selected in 2022. As of March this spring, we had advanced engineering and route design to what we call the 30% design of construction. And under Minnesota law, once we've reached a physical design components where we can start the municipal consent process, we begin that process. We also have to have released the supplemental draft EIS to begin that process, and that, as we are in the public comment period for that document, the two have come together and we're ready to start the municipal consent process. So Met Council will submit to Hennepin County and the cities, the 4 cities along the proposed route this Friday if action moves forward here. The physical design components of the preliminary design project plans. And then we will need to conduct a municipal consent public hearing with Hennepin County Regional Rail. This public hearing, because Hennepin County as an agency also needs to provide municipal consent and have a public hearing, this public hearing will also serve as the public hearing for Hennepin County. So it'll be a joint public hearing of Metropolitan Council, Hennepin County Regional Rail, and Hennepin County. The scheduled hearing is to take place, if approved, on August 24th, 2024, at North Point Health and Wellness Conference Center, 1256 Penn Avenue, Suite 5200 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we'll start that public hearing at 6 p.m. and we'll go as long as there are comments from the public. So the rationale for the business item today is that we are following, and municipal consent is a state process, whereas a supplemental draft EIS public process is a federal process. We are following Minnesota Statute 473-3994, which outlines the procedures we must follow for light rail light rail municipal consent. After you authorize the public hearing, we must conduct that public hearing within 30 days. And then at the completion of that public hearing, each of the affected communities and the county have 45 days to take action on their part related to the steps of municipal consent within their jurisdiction. So this action tonight would begin that process. So the proposed action is to authorize a joint municipal consent public hearing with Hennepin County Regional Railroad Authority and Hennepin County on August 24th as directed in the action, and to direct the staff of the project of the Blue Line Extension to submit the municipal consent plans to Hennepin County, the cities of Minneapolis, Robbinsdale, Crystal, and Brooklyn Park. And the submittal of those plans would occur on this Friday, both electronically and in paper. And we will have plans available in the public libraries along the corridor also. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? I have one question. So my question for the hearing on the 24th, is there a role for council members to play?
Yes, Madam Chair, council members. So this is a co-chaired by the chair. Chair Zelli will co-chair it with the Hennepin County Commissioner, probably the director of the head of the Regional Rail Authority. But all council members are invited to participate. In this public hearing, we'll just do a brief presentation and then take public comments. And so as council members, we provide space for you to receive those comments, verbal comments from the public at that meeting.
All right, thank you. If we can just make sure that information is sent out to council members beyond just transportation committee so that we can put it on calendars if people so choose, so.
Madam Chair, we will notice it probably as a special committee of the whole in case we have a quorum of council members, and we did that for the SDEIS public hearings also. So, but we can accommodate all council members.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Councilmember Cameron.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think that this is an important step in the process. As a council member who serves on the Corridor Management Committee, I think it's really important that we move forward. I think the public engagement portion of this process is so significant. I think certainly we've been through an environmental, through the SDEIS public comment period as well, and that's been really important to hear feedback directly from our communities. And so this is another really important phase in this process. So I look forward to hearing more from the public during the next few weeks.
All right, additional questions, comments?
Just-
Councilmember Chambliss?
I ditto everything that was said by Councilmember Anjali, and I will be participating in 100% of the public hearings, barring any problems like my wrist that I have.
All right.
Madam Chair, I should mention since Member Chambliss mentioned the other public hearings, we do have one tomorrow also for the SDIS that Member Chambliss is chairing. So there's an opportunity for the public to comment on that tomorrow also. Details on the project website.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, anything else? All right, then I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-122, same week.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cameron, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Morales. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Next, we're on to business item 2024-153, which is for the Metro Gold Line. It's vehicle use and guideway maintenance agreements with Washington County. We have Mike Ulmer here to present. Oh. And Alicia.
Hi.
Hi.
Morning. Afternoon. Just wanted to introduce Mike Ulmer. So Mike hasn't been before the committee before, so Chair, council members, Mike Ulmer is our agreements lead for both Purple Line and Gold Line. So I will turn it over to him.
All right, thanks, Alicia. All right, Chair Barber, council members, I'll be presenting business item number 2024-153 for the Gold Line Vehicle Use and Maintenance Agreements with Washington County. The Gold Line project is constructing approximately 8 miles of dedicated bus guideway between St. Paul and Woodbury. Transit responsible for the routine maintenance, including snow and ice control for this guideway. The project team worked closely with internal Transit departments and Washington County Public Works to develop a strategy to address these maintenance needs. Washington County Public Works will use their trucks and snow plows and new equipment purchased with Gold Line project funds to manage maintenance of the guideway. Council will retain ownership of this equipment and lease to the county at no cost. These two agreements will detail the terms, conditions, and payment structure for services provided by Washington County. These services are estimated to cost up to $850,000 a year based on 10 snow events per year. But the actual costs that Transit will pay will vary year to year based on weather conditions and maintenance required for the guideway. 2 agreements are required because 2 different funding sources will be used. 24I-000 will use Gold Line project funds and include FTA provisions and will cover services provided up to Gold Line's revenue service date of March 22nd, 2025. 24I-031 will use Transit's new Regional Transit Infrastructure Division Operating Fund and will not include FTA provisions and will cover services after revenue service. Therefore, we request that the council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute vehicle use and guideway maintenance agreements 24I-000 and 24I-031 with Washington County for snow removal and maintenance services for the Gold Line Bus Rapid Transit Project Guideway for a total not to exceed amount of $6 million. This concludes my presentation. I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you and welcome. So any questions or comments from council members? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-153.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Tyrone Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and motion carries. Thank you. All right, next we're on to business item 2024-167, which is pocket schedule printing, warehouse, and distribution contract, and we have Jacob Brown here to present.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the council. Jacob Brown, Assistant Manager, Transit Information. I oversee the field operations team at Transit Information. I'm here today to present on business item 2024-167, which is a contract for pocket schedule printing, warehousing, distribution services. Our proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to execute contract 24P009 with Sea Change Printing and Marketing Services for pocket schedule printing, warehousing, and distribution services in an amount not to exceed $975,940. In terms of background, Transit Information plays a role in providing our customers with accurate, timely, customer-facing information that help them have a positive experience on the transit system. The printed materials that we produce provide route information and schedule information and are generally geared towards customers that don't have access to electronic devices or large format printed schedules that are in our shelters. This is a standard contract that we seek from time to time, and we produce roughly, over the last 5 years, an average of 1 million pocket schedules each year. These are done quarterly with the service changes to update time schedules and route information for each of the picks that occur, with reprints that are ordered in between times as well. Back in March of this year, we entered into an invitation for bids in the marketplace. We received one bid from procurement, did the review and determined that the one bid was deemed responsive, responsible, and has been recommended for award. That firm is Sea Change Printing and Marketing Services, who we currently do business with for pocket schedule printing. The Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity assigned an MCUB goal of 5% for this solicitation and determined that the firm being recommended has met the requirements for the contract. And it's also worth noting that Sea Change Printing and Marketing is an MCUB firm doing business with the Metropolitan Council. The funding for this contract is also included in the Transit Information Operating Budget. And with that being said, I will stand for questions if there are any.
Very good, thank you. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Carter?
Just one question, thank you. Is this a bid for 1 or 5 years? I'm just not sure how to size it.
Sure, Madam Chair, Councilmember Carter. With this contract, what we did is we put out the terms for 3 with 2 one-year extensions, so it could be a total of 5 years, but the base term is a 3-year contract.
And the amount is for that entire period?
Yes, Councilmember Carter, the amount that's being requested covers the 5-year period for that. The bid came in lower for the original 3, but we have room within there for the 5.
That is all. Thank you so much.
Additional questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-167.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Tony Carter. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Morales. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Jacob. All right, now we have 3 Green Line extension items that are coming before us, and Jim Alexander is unable to join us tonight, so we have Nick Thompson.
Madam Chair and council members. So the first business item of the 3, 2024-178 with Metro Green Line Extension BNSF Construction Agreement. For background, BNSF Railroad owns and operates a freight rail service, what is called the Wyzetta subdivision. This is approximately along 1.4 miles of the currently being constructed Metro Green Line extension. It's adjacent to this, our proposed track for Green Line extension. We have entered into a construction agreement with BNSF as we needed to shift their existing track and do some existing work. And this work was performed by our civil construction contractor, London McCross Joint Venture. We originally entered into this construction agreement in 2019 for a total of $4.5 million. We've had an amendment to that construction agreement also. The work since then, since that last amendment, additional BNSF work has been identified by the project to include addressing some issues that have come up near where the railroad and I-94 crosses under I-94 due to the railroad freight shift. We've had some unsuitable subgrade and some drainage issues that need correction to the freight rail tract. And so this amendment is for the construction work and flagging associated with the work needed to correct that issue. The cost for that will be estimated at $2.36 million. Rationale, because we are amending greater than 10%, that requires council approval per our policies. The work that is proposed tonight is within our existing budget and our proposed budget for the Green Line extension. All of this work is going to be done within the BNSF construction agreement, and so there's no opportunities for small business on this one. So the proposed action for you tonight is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to increase the purchase order value associated with contract 17M155 with the BNSF Railway for the Freight Rail Coordination Agreement construction phase to add $2.36 million for a total amount not to exceed $8,797,000.
Thank you, Nick. Questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-178.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Morales. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tyrone Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Back to you, Nick.
Madam Chair, council members, the business item 2024-179 is another amendment to an agreement. This is with the Metro Green Line Extension Master Utility Agreement with CenterPoint Energy, contract 16M143, amendment number 4. We originally entered into an agreement with CenterPoint in 2017 prior to construction. A master utility agreement covered many of the utility conflicts that would exist with existing CenterPoint utilities and the Green Line extension. The original amount was for $800,000, and we've had 3 amendments since that date. This amendment is due to additional work tied to, again, the BNSF right-of-way near what is going to be called the Opus Station. We had to relocate a gas line that to accommodate some existing railroad work. And so this is to increase the contract amount by $200,000 for a total contract amount not to exceed $1.415 million. This amendment would also extend the duration of the contract. It was about to expire, so this will extend it to the end of December 31st, 2025. Again, because this council policy requires amendments, our council action, if they exceed 10% of the contract value, we're bringing this before you today. This amendment also is within the existing and proposed Green Line extension budget. And as master utility agreements are performed by the utility, there's no opportunities on this amendment for small business. So the action before you is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute an amendment to contract 16M143 with CenterPoint Energy to add $200,000 for a total contract value not to exceed $1,415,000. I'll stand for any questions.
Thanks, Nick. Questions or comments from council members? All right, seeing and hearing none, entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-179.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Morales. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tony Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Back to you, Nick.
Madam Chair and council members, the third item for Green Line Extension tonight is for the Metro, or 2024-190 Metro Green Line Extension Cubic Transportation System Fare Collection Equipment, contract 24P2014. So the Metro Green Line Extension includes 16 new stations, which will require fare collection equipment. The equipment needs to integrate with our existing fleet and with existing vending machines, rail smart card validators, and handheld inspection devices used on existing Metro green and blue lines. Cubic Transportation Systems Incorporated is the Metropolitan Council's current provider of fare collection equipment, including for Metro Green Line. As the project is in the western half of the existing Green Line, we didn't want to introduce a new fare collection vendor with 2 different systems. That would potentially cause confusion both for passengers, enforcement personnel, and would create some integration issues with our fare collection. So procuring these services from Cubic is necessary to avoid incurring duplicative cost and to maintain a single database for our fare collection software and our go-to cards, and allows a seamless customer experience. In addition to seamless system expansions and upgrades in the future and for future light rail extensions like Blue Line extension. This project itself is also within the existing budget proposed for Green Line. So funds are available, and our current estimate for this is actually below what we had budgeted for the project. So we received a good bid for this. The contract is being procured through a sole source, and therefore there are no opportunities for disadvantaged business goals on this contract. So the action before you is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute sole source contract 24P214 with Cubic Transportation Systems Incorporated for the purchase of 46 ticket vending machines, 75 rail smart card validators, and handheld inspection devices and spare parts in the amount not to exceed $6,622,370.56.
Thank you, Nick. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-190.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Morales. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Tyrone Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Thank you, Nick. All right, we are on to business item 2024-132, which is a regionally significant 2024 to 2027 TIP amendment request regarding Highway 10, and we have Robbie King here. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, council members. So my name is Robbie King. I'm a planner with Metropolitan Transportation Services. So business item 2024-132 is for the Metropolitan Council to adopt an amendment to the 2024-2027 TIP to add a regionally significant project expanding US 10 from 2 to 3 lanes in Coon Rapids. So this is a regionally significant project, expanding US 10 from 2 to 3 lanes. It's going to add ultra-thin bonded course to existing mainline pavement and construct noise walls in both directions from CASA 78, Hanson Boulevard, to CASA 9, Round Lake Boulevard in Coon Rapids. This project is funded through $2.5 million from FHWA, $30 million in state legislative appropriation during the 2023 session, and $8 million through the Corridors of Commerce program. An opportunity for public comment was provided on this amendment for 21 days and concluded on June 6th. A total of 9 comments were received. 7 expressed opposition to the amendment, and these were related to general preference against roadway expansion and preference to spend funds on other modes. 2 expressed support, and these were from Anoka County and City of Coon Rapids staff. The Transportation Advisory Board recommends adoption of the TIP amendment because of the request meets all of the tests for a TIP amendment. This project has been through the TAC-TAB process, part of the 2040 TPP Amendment number 2 that was approved by Council on December 13th, 2023. The project has shown physical constraint, and an opportunity for public comment was provided. The action in front of you is that the Metropolitan Council adopt an amendment to the 2024-2027 TIP to add a regionally significant project expanding US 10 from 2 to 3 lanes in Coon Rapids. I'll take your questions.
Very good, thank you. Are there questions or comments from council members? Councilmember Cameron.
Yeah, in just reviewing the comments that were provided in the report, is there, it looks like some of the issues that were raised were around noise level from the expansion. So is there anything that was discussed at TAC or at TAB about the noise level with the expansion project?
That wasn't a topic for discussion. I think noise pollution might relate to other types of pollution that were discussed, but noise pollution or noise concerns weren't raised as a part of the discussion at TAC or TAB.
Is there anything being done to address some of the concerns raised by those in the public comment period about the noise pollution?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. The comments are being included into the draft 2050 TPP, which will further guide projects in the region. I think that's how we forwarded those comments on that we've collected during this public comment process.
Dr. Gross.
And Madam Chair, I think I'd just point out, I think the scope of the project does include noise walls, so at least in some areas there are mitigations as part of it.
Okay, great to hear. Thank you.
All right, additional questions or comments? All right, seeing and hearing no others, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-132.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Morales. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tyrone Carter. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. Now we're on to business item 2024-180, same week. It's about microtransit service. We have John Harper here.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. John Harper, Manager of Contracted Transit Service in MTS. Bring before you today business item to execute a contract for microtransit service, Metro Micro service. But before I go into the business item, I want to walk through a little bit of project history and level setting about where we are in this Metro Micro project. And I'll start by apologizing if I call it Metro Transit Micro. This is, I guess, the first public unveiling of a new branding that we're doing as part of the transition. And I'll talk about, this is all about the transition. And my item today is the first item in a number of different times you'll hear about the project over the next month or so as we expand the project. So we'll start by talking about Metro Micro areas of expansion and really microtransit, just to refresh, is I'd like to call it essentially Uber with buses, and that is it's an on-demand software-based shared ride transit service within certain zones. And we've talked within this committee, I believe, a number of times about the North Minneapolis pilot that we've been operating. And so really the question is, how can microtransit be used to serve areas that are traditionally difficult to serve with fixed route service? And for us, the next zones that we're talking about as we transition from pilot into a more full-fledged service is the next zones will serve areas with transit needs, but with limited existing or low-frequency existing fixed routes, and with connections with existing Metro Transit network at transit centers. This map shows the general concept of microtransit service areas and expansion candidates. This is part of an overall strategy conversation we've been having around microtransit, but also around service expansion. And the yellow circles on this map show areas of microtransit service expansion possibility. All shown for reference on this map are the suburban microtransit zones and the North Minneapolis zone as well. The timeline around Metro Micro is that we began the North Minneapolis pilot in September of 2022. We are about 2 years into that pilot. The pilot proved successful, and microtransit as a mode of service is a service mode that is used around the country and within this region, as I just showed on the previous map. And so we are moving this mode of service into a full-fledged program from that pilot. The two areas that we will begin with will be Woodbury area and northern Ramsey County. Those service areas will begin service in December of this year. We would like to coordinate the service expansion with the December pick on the Metro Transit fixed route network. We have expansion planned for 2 additional zones each year for the next 4 years, 25 through 28, for a total of 9 zones that we have planned. Those zones are not set yet. Among those candidates that we showed in the last map, we have not determined exactly where and exactly which areas. We're going to begin with these 2, and we're going to then determine, based on a number of different criteria, how to roll out the zones. But from the contract that I'll bring to you in just a moment here, we're looking at 2 additional zones each year for a total of 9 zones when we get to the completion of the 5-year agreement. The service, microtransit, just to take another little half step back, microtransit, as I said, is delivered both with vehicles delivering service, but also with an app for reserving those trips, for scheduling those trips, for drivers, bus operators to interact with that schedule, respond to the trip requests. So there's a service delivery component and there's a software component. This timeline on this slide shows the timeline for each of those 2 processes. They are consecutive, they're not concurrent, so there'll be a bit of a transition period as we go through Q4 of this year. So I'm bringing to you in just a moment here the service contract, which is a 5-year agreement. It will come to you today. It will go same week, pending your approval here, same week to the full council for implementation in October. The software, we received proposals. I'm on that review panel. We received proposals today, and we will review those over the next few weeks here, and we will bring a recommendation to you on the software to run the service in late August, early September, and to the council in mid-September. The implementation of that software contract will be concurrent with the service expansion with the December pick. That's our hope. So operations to transition to the new contract October, software to transition to the new agreement with the pick in December. The transition of the name, as I just mentioned to you, will be part of this process. Before I get to the business item, I do want to say that Network Now, which is a plan that Metro Transit is undergoing, that is a much broader plan for about a 5-year service expansion of variety of services, variety of types of service. Will include conversation about Metro Micro, and the plan is for that to come to you on your August 26th committee meeting, and there'll be more conversation about Metro Micro at that time. We will flesh out the marketing plan around these new expansion zones as we go through Q3 of this year and as we move towards that December implementation timeline. So that's the micro project. I should mention that there have been a lot of people working on this over the last 2 years to ensure the pilot got delivered, to ensure the pilot, to ensure that we kept track of the pilot and made adjustments as we moved along. And so there's been a lot of resources delivering that, overseeing that, and helping move that towards the full-fledged program that we're moving towards this fall. So with that, I'm going to bring to you here the business item to award the operations contract, and that is business item 2024-180, same week. And that action is for the Council to authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute a contract with Schmitty & Sons Transportation Incorporated to provide microtransit services in an amount not to exceed $60,645,500. And so to talk about that very briefly, Madam Chair and committee members, as we do within MTS, we solicited proposals, issued an RFP. We received 4 proposals, and the RFP was issued on April 11th. We received 4 proposals, 3 from existing service providers, 1 from VIA, who does our software today, who is not a service provider. Those 4 proposals were reviewed by a panel of 5, including some from MTS, some 1 member from Metro Transit, and 1 member from Department of Human Services. So we got some internal and some external voices on that review. And they reviewed the proposals and determined that Schmitty & Sons was the best value for the council and recommend award. I do want to mention that the contract allows for small bus service. It also allows for van service. We are uncertain exactly how we want to deliver each zone, and as we move through expanding the service, we have that option within the contract. It also allows for expansion from where the base number of hours and contraction from the base number of hours, so that we have some flexibility there in our service delivery as we roll out these zones, and the speed at which we roll them out and the quantity at which we roll them out. And that is all typical in the kind of contract that MTS issues. And so the base value of the 100% value of the contract or the proposal from Schmitty & Sons is $49.3 million. The maximum amount of this contract allows for expansion of service commensurate with the terms of the contract. And so with all of that, I will stand for questions if there are any from the committee.
Thank you, John. Questions or comments? They're quiet.
Might
Okay,
as well
Councilmember
ask.
Carter. Yeah.
Thank you. Please feel free to put this off to sometime in the distant future if necessary. But I might as well ask the question, as we were going through our concerns with Uber, Lyft in the Twin Cities this past year, were there any considerations for our capacities to be expanded at some point in time? Was there any discussion of the potential that our I want to say micro transit, but I don't want to say that because then I would be going against the new brand. So it's Metro Micro. Was there any discussion of Metro Micro's capacity there?
Madam Chair and Member Carter, I will attempt to answer that a little bit, but it's a little bit maybe outside of my wheelhouse. But let me say a few things as it relates to the question. And you may certainly call it microtransit. That is what the service is known as, generally speaking. Our brand of the service will be Metro Micro. So, all of that, as long as we know what we're talking about, what we call it is a little immaterial. So, as we talk about how Uber and Lyft fit and the demand, really we, within the project, within those that have been reviewing the pilot and those that have been looking at service expansion, it's really a matter for us about how does microtransit and this Metro Micro service fit within the family of services that we deliver as a council. We have a robust fixed route service. The Network Now plan that's going to be brought to you soon will talk about expansion of that over the next 5 years or so. Micro, as I mentioned in the first slide, is really how do we reach out to areas that we aren't serving well in the fixed route modes with our metro lines, with our local bus, with our, our rail service and so on. How do we reach beyond that? And so it's really a matter of us filling in our gaps. Within the context of the planning of these services, there wasn't any conversation. It's a much longer time horizon than a conversation about if Uber and Lyft have issues within the region or within the city of Minneapolis. I will say that many transit agencies partner with Uber or Lyft or other TNCs to deliver, kind of work together to deliver microtransit type service. We aren't at that point. We aren't investigating that within the micro arena. We're really working towards delivering these zones beginning this contract. If that, it doesn't exclude the conversation around that as we move forward, because we can deliver service within this contract. We can do other things as well. But it really wasn't part of the overall conversation around delivering this service with these zones.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay, additional questions or comments? Councilmember Cameron?
One of the things that you mentioned is the expansion to additional service sites. We're moving out of the pilot phase and we have two sites lined up. I'm curious if we're thinking about 9 between now and 2028, how do we choose and what flexibility do we have in choosing those sites if things change? That's a long way away and we might want some flexibility in where those sites are located relative to our overall transportation system.
Indeed. Madam Chair, committee member, if I may, I will defer that question to the conversation around Network Now. Evaluating, prioritizing those microservice areas was really part of that study and a broader conversation. I'm not prepared to talk in depth about that. I think the Metro Transit planning staff is really much better equipped to answer that question for you. And so I'd prefer to not step halfway in and maybe get some things not quite right. I'd rather defer that to a future conversation, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
And General Manager Kinderis, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're going to start getting information on Network Now in August and September over the next few months of what we've seen from the work that's being done there. So it's not too far off. Okay. I always have to check to make sure I had it right. Any other questions and comments? All right, I have just one comment. I'm really glad to see this. We've seen our suburban transit providers do a really great job with this. Our pilot project went really well. It's a good creative way to provide service to areas that don't have it right now. So I'm just really excited to see this taking off a little more fully. One question that I had was, these two examples, the one in the Roseville area, one would be quite different. One's got an existing line, and how are we going to message that? The other one has a line that's going to be opening, and in the future. So they're kind of, one's trying to connect to the existing line, one is trying to get people to learn to ride transit. And so you may not have the answer for me today, but we have opportunities, as you were saying, ahead. But I'd be curious how we're going to talk about it and get the word out for those two different things.
Madam Chair, how we talk about it is also not in my wheelhouse exactly, but we certainly have had conversations about that. One of the things that we are very interested in doing, even as we roll this out as a more broad-based program for us as an agency, is to try some different things. And it will pose some difficulties for us in messaging. I will say to you that when you talk about the Woodbury zone, as we move towards opening Gold Line next year, if you get to the end of the line, if you're headed eastbound and you get to the end of the line in a parking lot in Woodbury, what do, right? Micro is a really good opportunity and a good option for that customer to get to the destination if they're not park and riding. And that's really the idea around the Woodbury zone. As you mentioned, the zone in northern Ramsey County, centered around Rosedale, has a lot more going on already. And so, one of the things we're thinking about in service delivery is there are some other route options. And one of the items we have asked for in our software is the opportunity to tell people to ride the fixed route when it's there. And so we may implement a fixed route filter around the microtransit zone in the North Metro. These are things we need to figure out over the next 5 months before the December implementation. And so we're working on those. The messaging will be complicated, potentially. We have folks meeting every other week right now, talking about all those things, making sure we have vehicles, making sure that as we transition our providers, pending your approval here, to Schmidt & Sons, but as we roll out these zones, that we, as we rebrand into a permanent brand that is a more regional brand name of the other programs that we have, that fits in with Metro Mobility, Metro Move, other brands that we run, that we definitely have an effort ahead of us to get that information out to the customers. So we appreciate that.
Director Carlson.
Yeah, Madam Chair and council members, oftentimes we'll bring information on the planning of a service, and then there's steps related to the procurements associated with the new service, and then often as it's approaching, we'll bring information about the launch and marketing of that service. So we're, with this item, really in that middle phase of here's the procurement associated with it. Perhaps based on some of the discussion tonight, it would make sense to bring an information item as we're getting closer to launch on how the marketing and the specifics of this next phase of service will work. But great questions tonight as we look ahead. Likely at that point, again, it would be a joint presentation with Metro Transit, akin to the information presentation back at your February 26th meeting about the planning for these zones and the service. I think later this fall, bringing that launch and service expectations could be a good info item to
And Madam Chair, I think to be show and tell at that meeting we're here, it would just be conversation.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Any additional questions or comments?
I'd just like to say, I like the fact that we're looking at additional creative options like this, try to meet the needs of everyone, and it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So, thank you.
Councilmember Carter.
Just a point of interest. I also very, very much appreciate the innovation of these services for areas that we are not serving as well as we'd like to. As an old data processing information systems kind of person, I was just thinking, who operates the software? And I realized this is app-based services. What happens when they don't work? Does Metro Council take those calls, or is this the app provider that will take those calls?
Madam Chair and committee member, the app will always work. Right, we've learned that this weekend, that the apps always work.
Exactly.
We do have the option for customers to use the app to schedule their trip. We also have the option for customers to call in to schedule their trip. It is on demand, and so network downtime is a significant issue, a significant risk for us. And we typically software providers will provide backup. They back up their services. They have several data centers, and they will point you to different data centers if there's an issue in one or the other. As I review the proposals for software, I will be thinking about that because I'm on that review team. So I will look at that. But it absolutely is a risk in this kind of service delivery, right? If we have a network failure on fixed route, the bus we know the schedules, we go down, there are things that happen, but we go down the route. As long as you know the schedule, even in schedule ahead, Metro Mobility and Transit Link service, you have what was scheduled yesterday for today. And so the risk is different, but also, not immediate. This is a significant risk. So thank you for pointing that out.
And we'll look forward to hearing more about that as you come back.
Sure, we can talk about that, I think.
All right, any additional questions or comments? Very good. Obviously, you piqued people's interest. There was a lot of discussion. So with that one, so then I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-180, same week.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Tony Carter, seconded by Councilmember Morales. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those nay. Motion carries. Thank you, John. And we are on to our final business item for the evening is business item 2024-192, a joint committee meeting or item. It's the Imagine 2050 Transportation Policy Plan released for public comment. And we have Cole Henniker here.
Good afternoon, council members. This is a pretty monumentous day for us in transportation to wrap up a 2-year-long process. So I'm just going to give a really quick background because I know we've been in front of you and the committee of the whole several times throughout the process. So this is kind of the last step before the public comment period. So to show you what we're doing right now, we've been moving this item through our TAC advisory committee structure over the last couple of weeks. We're ready to go to Transportation Committee today and the full council on August 14th to release the 2050 Transportation Policy Plan for public comment. You might note the action item is denoted with the JT, joint action with other committees. This will be combined with the other actions from CD and Environment Committee that recommend the other system plans. All will be acted on that August 14th date. Just notes there on the schedule, the public comment period will start on August 15th and tentatively scheduled to wrap up on August 7th. There's a 45-day requirement under our council policy. How did we get here? This has been about 2 years, like I said. We've done a lot of work. I think we've updated you on some of this work in the past, but I wanted to touch on a couple highlights again. And all these are active links if you wanted to, the underlined text, if you want to go visit any information on these items. But the third bullet there, we really started this, a lot of the in-depth work on the TPP, doing over 50 listening sessions with our partners. We went out and met with counties, cities, transit providers, MnDOT, other state agencies, as well as community representatives. And that was a little over a year ago, so that was early 2023. That formed the basis for a lot of the work that we then put into draft language that you now see in the TPP. We distributed a lot of policies and actions to various groups to review over a several-month process in late 2023. And those policies and actions that are a full chapter in the plan are really the basis of a lot of what the TPP is trying to do in informing policy for investment decision-making and local planning purposes. The last note I wanted to put on there is the last 2 bullets, that we distributed these drafts to a number of committees. It was also distributed to all the Met Council members and TAB members. And we received over 3,000 comments, I think, from all the different people that reviewed these draft documents. We addressed many of them. We don't have a detailed report because it was more of an informal comment process, but they were really helpful in shaping better drafts for us. And then we also had a number of committees meet throughout the 2 years to advise us on the work, including a technical working group and an advisory work group that included Met Council members. And so those groups met collectively 38 times over the last 2 years. So a lot of work went into these drafts. You can rest assured that these were very collaboratively developed and reviewed. So far to date, we've taken action at the TABs, both their board and their technical committees. It starts at a committee called TAC Planning. All the votes through the TAC process were unanimous. The one note is that at TAC Planning, they actually asked us to look to see if any language needed to be updated because it was just after the legislative session had ended.
So we did actually review a couple of sections of the TPP and updated it to match any legislative changes that happened in 2024. So it was a helpful comment from TAC Planning. A couple of notes about the public comment drafts. We do think there might be things that might change that aren't necessarily going to be in response to public comment. We still have some language alignment across the plans that has to occur. Not things that would change the policy intent, but just making sure that we're all speaking with the same words and tone. There's likely going to be some edits and corrections we'll catch as well. You know, it's over 600 pages, so there's bound to be a couple of errors in there. And then there's still a number of draft graphics, charts, and maps that might not quite be ready for the public comment draft. Those are all denoted in the draft document as placeholders, but just note that some of those are going to be finalized after the public comment period. And then one other final note, we recognize that the plan includes an evaluation of its outcomes, performance measures, but some of those may have to be rerun because the demographic forecasts can actually change by community based on public comment. So a city can come in and say, hey, can you adjust our forecast slightly in this part of our city? And we will do that, and then we'll have to rerun on the analysis that goes along with the 2050 TPP. So that's just a matter of updating information. So with that, would be happy to answer any questions, but otherwise, the proposed action is that we release the draft Imagine 2050 TPP for public review and comment.
Thank you, Cole. Questions or comments from council members? I just want to say thank you. Thank you definitely to Cole for leading this effort. You have kept us on track and organized, and I think the result has been fantastic. I really appreciate the approach that MTS really took this time, bringing in people early and having those conversations up front. I think it's really resulted in a great process. I especially want to thank council members Morales, Pacheco, and Vento, who served on the TPP work group with me, and I really appreciate all of your input and all the people who took time to review chapters and look at things, because I do think we've really got something really quite monumental there. So I'm very excited for this. So if there are no additional questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2024-192. JT.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Morales. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Pacheco. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cole. Any yay? That's how I'm going to end that one. All right, so looking at our business items, I would say 1 and 2 can go non-consent. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 can go consent. 8 non-consent and 9 non-consent, if everyone agrees with that. Okay, so only a little time. All right, we can move on then to our information items. Our first is State Fair Service, Workforce and Quarterly Services Changes. We've got Jessica Cross, Antoinette Brisson, Brian Funk, and Aaron Mitchell. Welcome. Oh, Brian's hanging in the back, so.
I'll come up after. Good afternoon, Chair
Welcome.
Barber and committee members. I am Antoinette Brisson, the Manager of Street Operations, and I will start us off as we talk about State Fair and then pass over to Jessica Cross, Market Development Specialist. As you all are aware, as we approach the State Fair, there are a lot of behind-the-scenes work that takes place so that we are able to make that operation successful. And that success continues to rely on the cross-functional department between our street operations, marketing, finance, transportation, maintenance, and a host of other internal and external partners. For this year's service, we do have some changes. We have added 2 sites this year. We've added Maplewood and Maple Grove, which will offer weekend and Labor Day service. Our start times are going to be an hour earlier this year, with start times at 8 a.m. from our express sites. We will have end times again at midnight on weekdays and weekends, and then 11 p.m. on Labor Day. So for the regular service, our Metro A line, again, this year will be managed via headway-based service from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which will have dedicated transit supervisors who are going to manage that service, working with our control center to ensure that it's operating as planned. There will be TVMs on site for express site locations. Our County Road 73 location this year will have a change of operation to improve the efficiency for this season for state fair operations. And we will have our bus-only lane near the fairgrounds, which will take us from the U of M Transit Way through the Energy Park Drive to 280 into the state fair. And for this year's operation, we will have a total bus count of 83 buses that will help us navigate this service. Ambassadors will be at all of our express sites, helping customers, ensuring that they're able to ask questions and get them what they need prior to going to the fair. And our transit police is going to staff our state fair turnaround. They will be there between 4:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. each night. And we have had continued discussions per recent legislation that required state fair organizers to consult Metropolitan Council as it pertains to their transportation management plan. So we have been having those discussions as required per that legislation. And I will stand for any questions on service.
Questions, comments? All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Barber and committee members. Again, my name is Jessica Cross. I work in marketing. And you can see here is the campaign for this year. What you can't see, it says riding with us is part of the fun, which is speaking to the great service that we offer to the community and being part of a cherished tradition. So the website went live today, and that was in coordination with the State Fair. So everything is live and up and moving. Media coverage, ticket sales even are live and ready to go. We'll be doing a lot of advertising on our own system, on our fleet, and at our stations to get the word out in the neighborhoods. We also email previous customers who bought e-tickets online. We do a lot of social media, digital billboards near each of the express sites. And we also do geofencing, so geo-targeted digital ads to get further into those areas. We are part of the State Fair Guide, or the Star Tribune State Fair Guide, and that includes advertising, but I also provide information and content to them to use in their channels. And then also being part of our BIPOC Media Buy, that'll be a lot of radio to further get into our various communities who are interested. Prices are the same this year, and that's $6 out at the express sites. That's cash. We don't give change. So we do have ticket vending machines out there. If somebody comes, don't have money, those often have lines. So we are encouraging people to purchase ahead of time using the app or e-tix, which is online. It's a website. And MBTA and Southwest will be using their own app this year. Signage is actually a huge part of this project. You can imagine that we are dealing with all sorts of operational, directional, safety, customer communications. So that's part of what we are working on now. New this year, we are adding some banners to the parking ramps at County Road 73, 95th Avenue, Maplewood Mall, and 30th Avenue. So as people are driving around, they will see that that is a State Fair Express site. And we also have a lot of signage on just our regular routes to help our customers navigate and buy tickets. And we are also at the State Fair. We are in the grandstand booth. We have been there for many years. This year, the exhibit is going to showcase the 4 transit lines that are under construction and opening in the next few years. So B Line, E Line, Gold Line, and Green Line extension. And it'll feature the art of Kevin Cannon, who has actually done a lot of illustrations for us. They're very fun, cartoony, creative, that he's really good at incorporating our vehicles, our lines, landmarks, diversity of customers, our employees, So it should be fun and colorful and engaging. We're going to give away the TIC Superpower Tools fans that we gave away last year and ran out of right away, so we'll get more. And there'll be lots of staffing opportunities there. We're also in the Eco Experience Building. We're part of MnDOT's Rolling in Green, highlighting sustainable transportation options. And it includes, you can sort of see in the photo, a replica bus. And this year, one new thing is that our demonstration bike rack is going to have its own exhibit feature. So hopefully it'll be nice and stable and more accurately replicate the experience of using a bike rack on a bus. And it'll include the instructions for that. And this is always really popular out there. People are really relieved to be able to try using one before they're facing a bus full of people waiting for them. And I think that's the end. Yes, if anybody has questions about marketing or signage or anything.
Yeah,
Councilmember Carter?
Yeah, I did have a question. Is there an estimate, because, everyone knows that years of going to the fair and you're going to that traffic kind of beehive, traffic stops and you're trying to get up the street. What's the impact that you estimate that you guys have had on lessening the car traffic?
I'm not sure. I'm the best person I do know that last year, the 4 express sites that we had was like 240,000 rides. So that's a lot of people not in their cars. So, but maybe you can speak to that better.
I don't have the specifics, Councilmember Carter. We do transport a lot of individuals, and so the lots are often full. They're often waiting for others to leave so that they can refill those spots, and that's consistent. It was especially with the 4. As we have now reintroducing 2 more of the sites, we'll be able to take more individuals off, and we'll probably see that same experience. Maple Grove itself is one that is very busy on the weekends for that park and ride. So it will continue to increase, but it is a significant amount that we alleviate trying to get into the fair in regular vehicles.
Oh, thank you, because I've been stuck in that a few times.
Councilmember Pacheco?
Yeah, Madam Chair, council members. I don't see a site from like downtown Minneapolis. Is there? I used to get to the express site right on 5th Street there, and yes.
We don't, so we had previously, it was the 960, Brian, help me out.
Yes.
The 960 that would go into that site. We have not done that site, and we haven't done that route in a couple of years because people are able to take the A-line and try to get into A-line, and the other local ones, we try to push more to, what we found is that the express sites were getting more usage, as well as other options that people were trying to navigate to get there instead of coming into downtown to have to try to get to the state fair. But it is something that is consistently looked at as far as what are the options, what can we offer in addition to maintaining our service, plus the sites that we account for with transporting passengers.
Doesn't the 3 go from downtown Minneapolis?
So which one? For years I used to just get downtown and then take the express there and go back behind the university. And then it has been a couple of years. I said, I don't even know where to stand, because the signs aren't there that would downtown. So I ended up had some give me a ride last time because.
Yeah, the Route 3, I think it has stops on Washington.
Yes.
Right, West Washington, and so that'll go up and over, go down, Energy Park Drive, and then on to Como, so right to the gate. So the same, just with more stops than the 960 had.
Councilmember Cameron?
Yeah. Piggybacking off of Councilmember Pacheco's question, I'd be interested in hearing about how site selection is done. It does seem like we are moving further and further out of the 94 corridor. And I've certainly heard from constituents. I know that the community surrounding the Southdale Center would really like to see a return to express service out from that location. And so if we could just talk more generally about the process of site selection, and then I don't know if you have any specific comments on the Southdale Center site as well.
Yeah, I can try to take that one, Madam Chair and council members. So Southdale specifically, we'll talk about that sort of as a use case, is really based on the lack of the same parking situation that we had when we operated there, say in the mid-2000s. The recent development of the Westin and some of the other apartment buildings, expansion of Lifetime, means that even if we wanted to, there's really not a space that would have the 750 to 1,000 vacant spots every day for all 12 days of the fair for us to use at that time of year. So that's one obstacle. The second is that we do have a site that it's not Edina, but in Bloomington next to Mall of America, the 30th Avenue Park and Ride, and we've long had a presence at the Kelly Farm site right there. That's highly underutilized, and so surprisingly, even on our busiest days last year, we'd frequently only see cars parked on the first and second levels of a 5-level parking ramp, and so we're trying to make the most of the sites that we do have rather than spreading our resources across a higher volume and providing less quality service. So that's sort of the tension, and then I'll say that from a geographic selection, we're looking at what are the ways that we can cover kind of all areas of the map to provide at least one option. And in the case of the south and southwest sort of metro, if we're pulling that way, between our service in Bloomington and then the Southwest Transit Service and Minnesota Valley Service, there's a kind of a geographic imbalance just in that realm. And so that's why this year we put our additional resources into Maplewood in the northeast metro, and then Maple Grove on the weekends and Labor Day in the northwest metro. So that's kind of the tension we use. And then also it's ebbed and flowed over the last 20-some years that I've been around this operation, but we've really tried to focus in on what are the areas and locations that we own so that we're not incurring additional cost by leasing spaces for those 12 days. It was a situation that we would occasionally do that at some of the shopping centers that we were familiar with for years. That additional cost kind of cuts into our goal to provide a service that's subsidy neutral. So that's another factor that we're considering. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, that's extremely helpful. I think, emphasizing the fast service is really important, especially when we're looking at the map as it stands right now, because I think to Councilmember Pacheco's point, it is a little counterintuitive to maybe go further away from the fair to get to the fair faster. And so I think part of the pushback around site location is really that the geography of where those sites are located. And so if we can emphasize how much time it saves by taking the express bus, even though you are coming further out from where you might reside, might be helpful for people to understand.
Yeah.
Councilmember Pacheco?
Yeah. Because when you explain it, even as you explain it, there's parking downtown in Minneapolis, and that bus is packed every time I've been on it, and so people can take a bus to get downtown and then go from there. And then a lot of people they don't own cars. That's not an option. And so when you go figure what you take this bus to get to the fair, it gets a little bit more problematic. But because this thing was packed.
And I think, Madam Chair and Council Member, I'll say too that I think I'm on like the fourth factor is weighting what are the available resources that we know we can commit to. Antoinette had mentioned the balance of our regular service, and so like on these days with the sites, it's fewer than we had in the past, but it's still 83 buses and operators that are going out above and beyond the additional service that we've continued to add. We had found ourselves specifically in 2018 and 2019, that we were frankly overcommitted, and we were delivering state fair service and not delivering the regular route service. We had some, employees, that's a lot of fun to go drive for the state fair, but then it meant that some of our regular service was being sacrificed, and that's not a principle that we want to adopt or say is okay, because we do have that commitment to our customers, especially those riding every single day, that we can't miss those trips. So it's just another one of the factors.
Councilmember Carter.
I appreciate all of the questions. I was wondering too, because I recall taking a bus from Unidale, is it Unidale? Yeah, from Unidale Mall to the fair and back. And that was really, really delightful as well, avoiding all of the stops and getting right in. And it was a very, very full service, as I recall. I don't want to stay on that. I very much appreciate that this is huge. It's very much event management that you all are doing. And I notice, since being on the council, that it's not just one time a year. There are so many things that you have to plan for that are above and beyond. And so being able to deliver a subsidy-free service is an important priority where we can. And being able to manage our regular service is absolutely critical as well. So I know that's got to be a big balancing act. I was going to ask about the cost. So your comment about being subsidy-free is interesting to me, and I wonder if we purport to be able to deliver on that this year and what it's looked like in the past. Certainly, we want to be able to assess that as we think about the variety of different options we have.
Madam Chair and Council Member, it's a really good point, and General Manager and I were talking about, doing that assessment, because that has been a goal of ours, sort of a principle that we want to be able to do that, but recognizing that we've not increased fares for a lot of years. Meanwhile, our labor and other expenses have increased quite dramatically and outpaced that. And so while we're offsetting it by not having some of, like, for example, the lease costs for some of the other sites, we're going to study it this year and see sort of how does that play out. And then be able to, come back and share information and, see if that guides future decision-making. Because we know that there's a strong desire, but at the price point, I'll just say I'll be surprised, if we've kept up because of those increased, operator labor, mechanic labor, fuel parts, all of those things have increased quite a bit. So we may have to have that discussion as well. And our fare, what we can charge people, is also built into kind of our round-trip fare structure. And so we're pretty well capped that even if it was costing us significantly more, we'd be pretty restricted on what we could do without classifying it as more of like a charter service or some special premium fare. So a lot of different levers that need to be pulled there.
Madam Chair, a couple follow-ups, please. Thank you very much. I would also ask if the transit assistance program applies to these rides and how we communicate whether or not it does.
Madam Chair and Councilmember, I'll take a shot and then others can correct me, but that would apply on the regular route service. So if you're taking LRT to 30th Avenue Park and Ride, for example, but then we have the premium express fare. The A line, it would certainly qualify for all of the trips on A line, the Route 3, and then there's another route that doesn't have quite as much frequency, but it runs on Larpenteur Avenue, the Route 61. And so for those routes, TAP would apply. Historically, we have not had that included in our express fare policy.
Well, thank you. And the last question that I have today is about safety and security. What kind of arrangements are being made? It occurs to me, the ride that I took on an express was a very comfortable, quiet, people were tired ride coming back especially. But I wonder if we have special provisions for these transit express services or for our services overall during the fair.
I would say that we will work closely with our transit police. Our operators are instructed to know that if there is a situation that may arise, I previously worked multiple sites during service, and typically It's a fun time, so there have been minimal issues. However, those are promptly addressed either while they're before the station, if it arises where they're at a safe place, where they're able to safely get to the fair to get transit police, they help in those instances. Within the training that our ambassadors who staff all of the sites get, they're told what steps and actions to take should something arise. And so they follow a lot of the same protocols as it pertains to when operators need to report in, if there's assistance requested, if they're able to see something. The goal is to make sure that everyone is safe aboard and try to get them safely to those express sites. But again, as transit police will staff it, especially in the PM, as more people have had a good time and may encounter some different issues. They'll be there in those times where there could be more escalated situations arising.
Thank you. And I imagine there's a collaboration and a partnership between the State Fair and our transit police as well.
Yeah, and Madam Chair and Council Member, I was just going to sort of build. Antoinette had mentioned that we have State Fair Police who are at the State Fairgrounds Transit Center in the afternoon from about 4:30 till after midnight, just so that they can be there if somebody gets a little bit rowdy or we have any issues, and that's, of course, the primary direction. And then, as you indicated, that collaboration with the State Fair Police Department and some emergency management planning, so if there needs to be an emergency egress or things like that, we're clued in on what those plans are and sort of how we, what gates are open, so that if there needs to be reunification or transport, all of that gets worked out.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the concerted plan.
Councilmember Pacheco?
Sure, Madam Chair, do you track how many are actually employees that are working at the fair? So if because when I notice when I'm there, you'll see a lot of folks that are, maybe they have jerseys or something, they're working there, as well as the families that are there. And so I don't know if that makes a difference, or you can work with the folks that are hiring these folks, or give them different fares, or do whatever they can help subsidize it, because I just see that a lot when I'm on there, and I miss that bus ride.
Madam Chair, council members, so noted. And I think unless somebody knows the answer, we can dig in and see. I don't know that we're recording people who are working at the fair in a separate way from kind of our general boardings, but we can check into that.
I have a little bit to add, Madam Chair, Committee Member. We do allow State Fair employees to ride for free, but just the regular, sort of booth workers, food service workers, they would have to pay like anybody else.
Okay, any additional questions, comments? Councilmember Cameron?
I just have a comment that, this has generated a really robust conversation, and I think it's because of the volume of service. It's because how important this service is that we get to participate in the Great Minnesota Get Together. I think we have an opportunity to recruit new transit riders every year when we do this. It's some people's first and maybe one of many interactions with Metro Transit, but it's a really important one, and I think it's a wonderful service that we provide. I think we've already heard some fond memories, and I know I have some as well, of taking the express bus. And so, it connects with people. They remember where they took it from. It's not, I can think about where I took where I have taken different express buses from during different years, different points in my life. So it's a standout service. I'd want to congratulate your team on putting it together and doing it so successfully for so many years.
Okay, thank you. Any addition? All right, turning it back to you guys.
All right. I think we can go ahead and
Thank
get
you.
started on our workforce updates. Thank you both. Slide in the middle here. All right, well, I'm going to try to keep the excitement going because all of the information that we have today, especially this slide here, is sort of demonstrating our readiness for all of this additional state fair service that we're preparing to provide. Of course, as this council knows, in order to deliver that service, we need operators to drive the bus in addition to the supervisors and the ambassador staff and others, as we mentioned. And so looking at a snapshot of our bus operator target and hiring. Right now, we are scheduling for 1,125 full-time and part-time weekday operators, and we're actually staffed over that, and so that's great news. That number of the actual, the 1139, is reflective of a measure that we have not reached since the summer, midsummer of 2021. And so this is a really good number, a good place to be. It reflects a lot of really incredible hard work across operations and human resources and the entire organization getting behind this effort. And so the second bullet you'll see is the August 24 service target. Aaron will talk about what some of those service modifications and improvements are, but it shows that we're in a solid standing and a good position for that. We still have nearly 60 employees who are in training right now, and so some of whom will be completing their training before the state fair and before that August pick time, so that sets us up to be very successful so that we are not jeopardizing that regular route service and can deliver high quality state fair event service. So this last weekend, we had a large interview event at our instruction center just down the street. We had 85 people who checked in and 82 completed an interview. I know that I was on hand with a lot of management to be able to do that, and so it was a really great, again, collaboration between human resources and the operations teams to make sure that we're able to get back and be responsive to people who have an interest in joining our team. Year to date, more than 200 people have hired on with us as bus operators, and so that's another strong sign that we know in order to achieve our targets and keep up with people who are not just leaving Metro Transit through retirement or other attrition, but moving into supervisory or other positions, we need to be close to 400 people hired for the year, and so we're in a really strong position through June to be able to do that. And then finally, we continue to measure our attrition. Right now, the highest single reason is general resignation, and so as we've been doing for a while, really trying to dig in and better understand what are some of those specific reasons for people who want to walk away so early in their career. So, we'll continue to report out on that, and I know that the Assistant General Manager, Alyssa Haugen, it's part of what they have in their workforce task force bin.
As Councilmember Carter, did you have a question?
So the reason 23% of those departing left for general resignation, is there a number there that you could share?
There, Madam Chair and Council Member, there is a number. I don't have that off the top of my head, so I don't want to
It's always interesting
report,
to know the
but, yeah.
hired versus attrition.
Right, we can certainly provide that.
Thank you.
Moving into our train operators, this is another area. After our presentation, our manager of rail training is going to give you an overview of sort of what our train operators, amongst other people joining rail, experience, but we're still in good shape for June, and Aaron will describe what we're expecting to do in August. You can see the number increases. The last time that I had presented, I indicated that we were looking at improving frequency for part of the day, and so we're able to achieve that with the people that we have on the team right now, plus our additional folks who are in training that are scheduled to be completed for that August service adjustment. We do have another train operator class that'll be starting in just a couple weeks, and then a job posting to refresh and have additional classes through the remainder of the year as we continue to build our ranks. And then maintenance staffing snapshot. So this is a lot of numbers, but I think what I'd like to highlight, I promise I will not go through one by one in these, and will be available for follow-up, but I've maintained on the right side just sort of a list so you can see what are our changes from November when we were talking about these areas in particular. And I think that the great news is that everything is either the same or plus in those areas, which given historically what we have been seeing for employee loss, especially due to retirement in a lot of these areas, it's really fantastic that we are holding our own and in many areas gaining ground. And you'll see that pretty much to a person, In the sort of orange section, most of the way down the bottom, those are our rail systems maintenance positions, as well as the bottom positions, which are commuter rail. We're essentially fully staffed, and so this is the first time in years that we've been there. And as I mentioned last time, and I'll mention again, I really just appreciate the support from especially the contract perspective for us to have competitive wages that have moved the needle, and our teams are making the most of it. So thank you. And I'll turn it over to Erin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members. My name is Erin Mitchell, and I'm the Assistant Director of Service Development, and here to share with you our update for our August service pick. As you can see from our trend, we are continuing to be able to add service on track with our hiring levels. And so as you can see, we have the continued growth in our platform hours as well as our operator hiring. When we break it down by category, the largest gain for this pick here is with our light rail service, now up to 76% of our service levels compared to prior to COVID in August 2019. Was still a strong showing in our categories of local service and BRT, but we're still holding steady in and around that 26% for our commuter express service. The highlights for our August service pick is we are improving the peak of the peak service for our Orange Line BRT to go from every 15 minutes to every 10 minutes. So that would be northbound in the AM peak in the peak half hour and southbound in the PM peak half hour. But we're also able to improve the frequency on Sundays to every 15 minutes where it's currently every 30. The big star of the show for the August pick is our rail service improvements, where we're improving from every 15 minutes to every 12 minutes from roughly 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. And that profile of time is really when we have our strongest ridership. So where we're carrying the most number of customers is during that time period. It's also reflective of operators' work shift. And so we were looking at how do we pair our workforce growth with when to improve service. So rather than just improving it during the PM rush hour, looking at expanding that to be representative of an operator's work shift. And all of these improvements, both on Blue and Green Line, are operating 7 days a week. And this is in conjunction with our June service changes where we went down to 2-car trains. And so this paired with this frequency improvement does allow for us to have adequate service capacity during our highest ridership times of the day. We're also improving frequency on Route 80 to have a consistent 30-minute headway where it had been periods we're operating every 60 minutes. We also have roughly over 20 routes that have adjustments for Minneapolis and St. Paul schools, as well as our U of M service coming back in for the fall semester. And then we also have our Route 4 Better Bus Routes project. This is our 6th project overall that we are improving with various bus stop improvements. And I'd like to talk with you a little bit in more detail about that particular project. So what we have done is we are reducing the number of bus stops overall along the length of the route. And this is done in order to speed up and ensure the reliability of our service. And so that by having the bus stop spaced a little less frequently, so rather than every single block along the way, it may be more of spacing of around 1/8 mile or every other block. We are also, in some cases, adding a few bus stops where maybe that spacing wasn't quite the right fit for our customers. We are also improving the service schedule so that we have a more consistent operations of our frequency so that it's a more clean every 15 minutes rather than kind of a inconsistent timetabling overall. We're also making improvements for ADA. So we have more ADA pads for our customers that need those amenities. We're also adding some bus shelters along the length of the route. For the service change, we are not planning any additional service frequency improvements. And no other structural changes with branches or terminals. But we are making some changes with our time points so that they're located at key intersections along the length of the route. But through this process, we are consistent with our bus stop spacing policy so that 100% of our customers are within 1/8 of a mile of an existing or a realigned stop. In addition to the bus route stop changes, we're also improving some significant transit amenities for our service reliability for our bus lanes. And so I won't go through all of these here in detail, but we have a number of bus lanes that are being implemented here right now, as well as still under construction to help to ensure better service reliability in this corridor overall. We have done our outreach associated with this project. So with our efforts, we've had over 500 different survey responses, 350 written comments. And from that outreach that we've done, we did make some plan modifications. And those include retaining certain bus stops along the corridor. We have cited a few of these here, Lyndale and 22nd, at 50th and Bryant, and as well as a few others. And so really trying to show that we've been responsive to the feedback from the input that we received from our engagement efforts. As far as other customer outreach, what will happen as we roll this project out is that we're going to be posting the bus stops to announce the changes. This is consistent with how we've approached other Better Bus Routes projects, communication efforts in the past. We'll also use our various media outlets with text message, social media, to be able to push out that information. We also have efforts underway to keep our operators and staff informed of what are the changes as our frontline workers so that they're up to speed on what the changes are. We have done efforts throughout this project, but then also having them to be aware of trying to be accommodating to our customers along the way as we implement these and roll out these changes. So for our pick will be effective on August 17th, and we have pushed out these different communications on our different social media options and online trip planner already. And at that point, that concludes our presentation.
Okay, thank you both. Questions or comments? Councilmember Pacheco.
Madam Chair, members, I've had the pleasure of going to 50th in France and meeting some of the business folks there, and then just last week, earliest week, along also on Sheridan and Xerxes over at the park over there. How does that play into your moving the schedules? So if there's a construction project, does the schedule all around it change, or do you just change it during that time? I mean, people are asking a lot of questions, and I'm trying to keep up myself.
Madam Chair, Council Member, I believe you are referencing work associated with our E-line
Yes,
BRT
excuse me, I should have been
project.
clear.
And so that is separate from our efforts with this Route 4 Better Bus Routes project. I am not able to speak in detail about the communication efforts on the E-line project.
Yeah, and Madam Chair and Council Member, I think we can provide you with some information about what specific outreach had been done regarding that E-line, the Route 6, modifications for the detours or expected delays and additional scheduled running time and some of those things, so we can certainly provide that. Because we, as a matter of practice, when we have long-term known construction detours, Erin and her team will look at that, compare notes with what we know about the project to see what we can do to factor in that additional scheduled time just so we can be there reliably, even if it requires some additional resources.
I'm sure, members, and Katie Roth was at both things. The staff actually provide great information. So at the meetings, I think it could have been more often. I think Councilmember Jolie and I attended the meeting in 50th in France there, and from that meeting, we scheduled the following one over at Linden Hills Park, which is also on the E line. And so, and you see comments here, but I didn't see much for feedback from small business, because both of them were impacted greatly, and I know I live right up the street, so, but I don't see a lot of in what you presented now as far as the work that you guys doing as it pertains to small business or business along the route.
Madam Chair, Councilmember, just for clarification, are you referring to the outreach for small businesses associated with the E-Line project?
That's part of it, but I think across the board, I think we could do better with small business.
Councilmember Cameron.
Yeah, I think, you know, in some of the conversations that Councilmember Pacheco and I have had, you know, around the small business supports, one of the things is that regardless of where construction occurs, there is an impact on surrounding businesses. And so certainly I think he makes a really great point that even on the Route 4, you know, that is not so far away from E-Line construction. And you know, all of these along and around 50th and Southwest Minneapolis are happening in conjunction with one another. And so the impact to businesses within that corner of the region are significant this summer. And so I think he makes a really great point that as we are thinking about impacts across lines, that we are also thinking that even small amounts of construction can have a significant impact on small businesses. So in addition to E-Line, even thinking about Route 4 and what is happening there, the road closures surrounding it, you know, if we can mitigate as much of that as possible, recognizing that there are a lot of small businesses in that area as well.
Madam Chair, Councilmember, thank you. Comment noted.
All right, additional questions and comments? It says, again, thanks for giving us this information and continuing to provide some generally positive news of forward progress, which is really good. It's really nice to see the increases in frequency. I think we're going to have, that's one of the things we hear a lot about. So I'm glad to see that. So thank you all. All right, we have one more information item tonight. If my ears are not wrong, we probably don't want to go outside quite yet anyhow. So it's the light rail training overview. And we have Ona here to present. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chair and council members. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm excited to be here. My name is Ona, and I am the Light Rail Training Manager, and I have the pleasure to oversee systems, maintenance, rail control center, and transportation training, as well as safety and contractor training at Light Rail. Today I've been asked to focus on train operator training program structure and the rail control center training. This is a snapshot of my staff. Currently I have 6 direct reports, soon to be 8. And these are individuals that are SMEs in each of their areas that serve light rail. As it states, our mission statement is to provide quality training to all divisions of light rail personnel while creating and sustaining a learning culture. And we're dedicated to safety, engaged participation, and vested curriculum. So just a little brief overview about the Rail Control Center. What is the Rail Control Center? As you heard before this evening, Andrew Watterson, our senior supervisor who was awarded the commendation, he works in the Rail Control Center, and that is really the main hub of operations at Light Rail. And we oversee all training, and it's developed with APTA standards. It's a 16-week robust training program with rules, on-the-job training, classroom with my RCC trainer, and then a final certification week. In addition to that, the train operator qualifications for the transportation department at Light Rail, again, is developed to adhere to federal, state, and APTA requirements. This past year, I'm very happy to say that the training department collaborated really well with HR and the transportation department, to redesign the hiring and training processes to now hire from the external pool, which was very exciting and has been very well received and had wonderful outcomes. We have hired 34 people in 2024, and we currently have 11 people in training and 3 more classes scheduled for this year that are going to average 10 to 12 participants in each class. So we are working, as Aaron was stating earlier, we are working with service to provide that 12-minute service and then ultimately 10-minute, which is what our goal is. As it states, the train operator students complete a rigorous 10-week training program and their CDL is required, as well as final certification. An update on the Light Rail Training Center that we've had open since March of 2022. I'm currently entering into the design phase of upgrading our Light Rail Training Center, which is really exciting. And we'll be welcoming 2 more full-time staff, as well as a parking lot addition and upgrades to better service all of our growing needs in training and hiring, and as well as looking ahead to purchasing our light rail training simulator, which will benefit all of light rail staff and focus on transportation training to additionally help with refresher training, remedial training, and also reduce wear and tear on our current LRVs, and to provide low occurrence, high risk situations that we can't easily create scenarios for in training. So this is really an exciting 5-year project that's coming to fruition this year and next, and will be housed at the Light Rail Training Center. That's my brief presentation, and if Madam Chair or council members have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments? Councilmember Pacheco.
Madam Chairman, just a quick one.
Yeah.
Is there a separate certification once you've completed the training? Something like the CDL or some, because you now can drive the train.
Yeah, all the train operators receive CDL, and then they go through the 10-week program with me, and they have a final certification on our blue and green line, and then they go into annual recertification. Is that your question?
Yes, actually, it's just, again, there's training and then there's training. There's training that results in a qualification that could get you somewhere else, and then there's one that kind of ends there. But the other question I have is, we previously had a presentation on the training for the new fare box and the technology involved in there. And then they were working with, I think it was a couple of the technical schools.
Sure.
Do we draw from technical schools, or is there again, along the same line, is there a curriculum that you could take part in early and maybe out of high school that could prepare you for this type of career?
You know, I know, Madam Chair and council members, great question. I know that our HR department is working for outreach to technical schools and to attend job fairs at technical schools. And I am very happy to say we have a newly hired technician just out of Hennepin Tech. So we work very closely with projects with Hennepin Tech, Anoka Tech, Dakota Technical College, and make sure our presence is known. And I was told by this graduate, actually, just today, who is she's a mechanic in our LRV maintenance training program, that her professor said Metro Transit is the best place to go work. And they really advocate for Metropolitan Council, what we offer in our workplace culture, and what opportunities we're able to provide here. So absolutely, Hennepin Tech, Anoka Tech, we absolutely work very closely with them on special projects, and also HR and hiring managers working with them in job fairs and to make our presence known.
Additional questions, comments? Councilmember Cameron?
So in the past, Brian has presented to us about different opportunities that we are providing to support non-traditional students in obtaining a CDL program. Is there a pipeline to get them to this program? So if those students are coming through our CDL program, and then are we giving them an opportunity to shepherd them towards this program, or is that where they stay in the bus operator system?
Oh, I
I'd love to
see.
see a pipeline transitioning them to an even higher paying position within our system.
So it is the requirement to have your CDL, and people have that opportunity to come and stay in bus or to come to light rail, now that we're hiring from the external pool. And they retain their certification as they become employed here, and then any opportunities that are available at light rail are open to them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, to some extent. You know, where I'm going is that I'd like to see us take some of those non-traditional students and then shepherd them towards opportunities like this. So they're not, their end goal is not the CDL, but their end goal is to further advance along their Metro Transit work career.
I think, Ona, I can help, just because I had sort of shared some of this before. And so 2 points on that, Madam Chair and council members. So one is kind of, as Ona indicated, for people who are coming in without, that CDL or permit experience, train operator candidates, just like bus operator candidates, are able to participate in that commercial driver's permit training program. So that paid training, they can complete that. Transition to our bus training center to achieve that CDL with the endorsements, and then they'll move to ONA's training curriculum for the light rail position specifically. That does allow for portability, so that they have that that certification if other jobs require that moving within the company. And then I'll say one other thing that may be useful is we've had since about 2010, an internal program called the Leadership Academy for frontline staff to be able to achieve the necessary experience so that they're able to apply for our frontline supervision positions. It's really hard to get any sort of supervisory background if you're working full-time, and so recognizing that barrier many years ago, that program was started, and specific to in ONA's area for the rail transit supervisor, we've carved out separate cohorts so that people who are working as train operators have kind of the first chance to move into positions to get that training. And it's a similar curriculum, working alongside maybe other new hires to go through. And once they complete that, then they're successfully qualified to be able to apply for that job. And in fact, a couple of our recent graduates are very close to being able to achieve that. So it's good news, and the teams will be getting back together over the next couple of months to sort of hear about what were some of the lessons learned from the last 2 years, and then apply that moving forward so we can resume that with additional cohorts.
Light rail training works hand in hand with Leadership Academy and OJE. Having just, as Brian mentioned, putting the 2 candidates who are train operators now successfully through the full-blown training for our CC supervisors, which they were extremely successful in.
Additional questions, comments? Thank you, guys, and we'll continue to have some of these presentations.
Yeah,
There's
thank you.
obviously been a lot of questions amongst the committee about some of the training and background, so we're going to try and do that as our agendas permit as much as we can. So, all right.
Madam Chair, may I have just a minute while Mr. Funk is here and General Manager Canderas? I forgot to say that my experience at the Lost and Found and picking up my wallet took place on the first sunny Friday afternoon we've had. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, everybody who can get out has gotten out. But they were just great. That was pretty amazing. And the person that called me first, I'm so glad I heard Mr. Funk and Ona speak, was a top-line supervisor, now that I hear the job descriptions. So, holy mackerel, this is...
I would tell you, my daughter left her little wallet thing on the bus. And then she called me and said, I left it there, and I said, I'll go check, and sure enough, they had it, and her $40 was still in there.
Great, fantastic.
It's a
Wonderful.
good way to end the night. If there are no objections, all right, we are adjourned.
I had.